It's about faith to believe. It's about hope to receive. It's about love to give life. It's about transplant life with me, Ms. Vinnie.
10 years ago, Robert Chelsea was driving home from his weekly church fellowship in Los Angeles. His car overheated, and he pulled to the side of the freeway awaiting roadside assistance. While waiting in his car for help, a drunk driver smashed into Robert's disabled car. Robert's car exploded on impact. He suffered third-degree burns over 50% of his body, mostly to his upper body and face, making him nearly unrecognizable to his friends, his family and himself. After enduring more than 30 surgeries to repair his body and many years of prayer, Robert became the first African American in history to receive a full facial transplant.
Hey everyone, welcome to About Transplant Life TV from Pasadena, California. I am your host, Miss Vinnie. You know, it was 10 years ago I became a grateful heart transplant recipient with a miraculous story to share with you about the power of love. When someone is in need of a life-saving organ transplant, love rushes in to rescue them. The kind of love that it takes to be a prayerful caregiver, a dedicated medical professional, or to become a registered organ donor. These are the passionate stories that we share on About Transplant Life. Today, we are honoring a true life miracle. His name is Robert Chelsea, and he is not only my friend, but he is also the first African American male and the eldest person to receive a full face transplant. You heard me. His story made national headlines due to his historic life-changing surgery, but it is also a glorious testament to the power of God to literally bring us through any situation that seems absolutely impossible. So please give a warm welcome to my dear friend, Robert Chelsea. Hi, Robert.
Hi, Vinnie.
Welcome to About Transplant Life TV.
Thank you.
I see you brought a friend with you.
Yes, Temi Ojo.
Temi Ojo. Hi, Temi. Welcome to About Transplant Life.
Thank you. It's good. Thank
So
you.
tell my friends a little bit about you.
About me?
Yeah.
I'm a friend of Robert's as well. I've known Robert for about a little bit over 5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a filmmaker.
You're a filmmaker.
I'm a filmmaker.
Okay. So
Yes.
are you guys working on a project together?
Yes, I have the honor of working on a feature film about Robert. So I'm writing the script and I'm developing it at the moment.
That's absolutely incredible. I look forward to hearing more about that. So Robert, today is your day. So let's talk about transplant life, okay?
Okay.
So ever since I've known you, one of the things that stands out to me is you are a remarkable man. You are a man of faith. And I liken you to Job. I say if Job were alive today, his name would be Robert. And so has faith always been a strong foundation for you in your life?
Faith has been, since I found a wonderful experience in our Heavenly Father when I was about 32 years old. And I couldn't help, but I couldn't put the Bible down. Every single page just helped me to see myself and the sin that so easily besets or influences us. And I had mounted up many sins up until that age group.
I can't imagine you mounting up no sins.
Well, it's the sins that are acceptable to man, we just overlook. Look, we got a president right now. How in the world could we have him? But people just take it for granted. So you may not be able to imagine somebody that doesn't create that kind of trauma.
So let's talk about your life before transplant, since you talked about, you know, your sins before you found the Lord in your life. Tell us a little bit about Robert Chelsea before your historic face transplant?
Well, I was like anybody else up until that age. I got married at age 30. My daughter was born 9 years later, and so business-wise, it was like most people. We found a way of generating an income and educating ourselves in one way or another. About 11 years ago, I think that's the reason why I'm here today sharing with you, is because I was in an auto accident. I was on the freeway and a drunk driver swerved over to my lane, ran straight into me. My car went up in the air, and when it came down, a few seconds later, then it just blew up.
So this happened in 2013, was it?
Yes.
So you were driving on the 605 freeway, if I remember your story correctly, and you had just left church that evening, right?
Well, that's how the record seems to go. People have said I don't remember where I was. It was on a Monday, and actually my car had
Overheated, right?
Overheated, yeah. So I was on the shoulder of the freeway, and the driver drove across a few lanes on the 605 freeway, and drove straight on to me, and when he hit me, the impact caused my car to go up in the air.
My goodness, he must have been going really fast. I understand he was a drunk driver also, right?
Yes, he was a drunk driver.
Yeah.
Yes. So when my car blew up, I was burned pretty much from head to toe, including my lips getting burned off and part of my tongue. So.
Do you remember that moment?
Oh yeah. I was conscious until the time I was admitted into the gurney, the emergency gurney. I laid on the gurney thinking that somebody would come and pick me up from the hospital, just check me out, because I didn't realize that. I knew I was burned because I had burn spots that I could feel, but I didn't know it was as severe as it was. My arms, the person that helped me, Richard Robles, he came to my rescue, and he said he tried to take my arm, but my arm was melting. So,
melting.
Yes.
So tell us about that, the angel that rescued you while the car had exploded and it was in flames, right?
Yes.
So he came from out of nowhere and pulled you out of the car?
Yes, he assisted me out. Let's keep in mind, I think you mentioned the topic of faith. God could have let the car swerve around me. And if I had seen that, I would have rejoiced. But he allowed me to be in the accident. And I'm ever so grateful, because in spite of how deformed and challenging physically it was, mentally and so on, still there was such a glorious experience for me going through this. And so I do remember getting out of the car. I remember telling who I was. When I laid on the gurney, I woke up 6 months later. So I was in a coma for
6 months after the accident, you woke up.
Yes.
You were in a coma.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So we look at things and say, "Oh my God, these are miracle here, miracle there, miracle." But God just has such a wonderful way. How can you really just call it miracles, or is that His way, His ability to do? It's normal for Him, but for us, it's just out of this world. We can't even conceive.
Well, His thoughts are not our thoughts, and His ways
Not
are
at
not
all.
our ways at all, right? Because I'm sure you would not have wanted to take this journey, but it sounds like you are ever so grateful and so humbled by it.
Well, the journey you don't wish upon yourself. It's the circumstances and experience, the benefits behind the journey, where you can't help but appreciate it. See, every step of that, of my way at least, He always provided a degree of comfort, so that I had no regrets about what transpired, how it happened, what it may look like to others. You know, when you have a satisfaction in your heart it's like a young woman that's married to a guy that may not be as attractive that you would expect, him to be able to
I think
make,
Robert was always romantic because he always leads into a love story. Speaking of love, I want to talk about forgiveness because I remember, we've had this conversation many times, and I heard you say that you forgive the driver of the vehicle. Did you say that?
no, I didn't say I forgive him because I don't see any reason to charge him. That's, if I charge a man because it was an accident, you may have had one today on your way here. See? And we're all guilty of that. We're guilty of deceiving someone, lying, cheating, see, misleading.
So you find him blameless,
Uh, I, I know that what he did was wrong,
right?
but I'm always second to you, how much more have I done wrong? So what nerve would I have? Oh, Lord, get him. He look what he did to me. You know, and how many times have I possibly caused an accident? See? So there was no reason to forgive him because I had no reason to charge him. I know it was wrong, and of course I would have preferred it not happen. But, you know,
How do you
yea,
feel
though I
about that?
walk the valleys of shadow, I couldn't fear evil, not because I just got it all going on, but God was with me.
Yes, he was.
So
Yes, he was.
when he comforts you like that,
How you feel about him being able to forgive or not find blameless the person that caused such a tragic thing to happen to his life? How you feel about that, Temi?
To be completely honest with you, one of the reasons I am sitting here and I appreciate Robert is because his perspectives sort of open my mind, sort of it enlightens me. You know, that would not have been honestly, that would not have been my first reaction.
Right.
But the one time I've seen Robert really angry was once when someone was asking him, early when I met him, someone was, asking him, and I was supporting, yeah, but why? And he just got so upset. And I'm like, oh, he's
Asking
not,
him what?
that, like how.
About the situation,
About
how
the
he-
situation,
yeah.
like the drunk driver.
Yeah.
Like, but he was a DUI, and it was his third DUI. Like, how can you, almost as if like, that was my stance as well. Like,
But that's the power of love, isn't it,
but the
Robert?
power of love, yeah.
Yeah, that's the power of love.
well, you just don't love. You fall in love because of how one has treated you, how they have given you a degree of assurance in such a way that you have found rest in that circumstance or in him. So it's, I hesitate to just say, oh yeah, it's a partner. I have learned to love him. See, he's done sufficient amount for me that I'll go anywhere, with him,
You talking about the Lord now?
with God.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
The key is if I can humble myself, shut my mouth, open my heart to hear his next direction so that I can, I know it's glorious, but if I jump out and do my thing again, well, it can be just as tragic as anything else.
That's a valuable lesson that we can all learn from you, Robert. So I was reading that your evaluation process to transplant to this historic face transplant that happened to you was a very long process. It took like 6 years of testing and things like that. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, the cutoff for a face transplant was about 50 years old. And I was already 64 before we even began to talk about transplants. There's only been 40, a little over 40 in the world, and I'm actually the first black, period, to have a full face transplant. Some of that 40 have had partial transplants, face transplants. Someone may have attempted suicide and just shot off the chin. So they might have a partial transplant or shot off part of their eye socket, all kinds of different. So
Wow.
some of them are partial, and then in my case, it happens to be a full face transplant. Part of my lips were burned off and part of my tongue, and so I pretty much looked like a Halloween mask. And the purpose for having a face transplant was to allow me to have some degree of function so that I could eat without using a big old syringe. I was eating and drinking out of a syringe. I still use a syringe to gargle because my mouth, when you're in a coma that long, so many things sticking up that will never open up again, like my voice and how I project myself, and my mouth only opens about this wide. The average person might open that wide when they yarn or something.
Yeah.
But me, so even now, that's why I can only drink out of a straw. I can't drink out of a bottle or a cup or anything like that. So those are all various circumstances, and that was the purpose for having the face transplant.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. That was in 2019, right?
Yes.
Let's talk about this incredible team of doctors that literally performed this miraculous surgery for you. Tell us about them.
Well, Dr. Woden Palmerhawk, is from Czechoslovakia, and the majority of the face transplants, there's only been 15 in the whole country. 10 of them were done by him. And that was at Brigham Women's Hospital, which is a medical center, research center for Harvard University.
Oh, okay, very good.
And all the plastic surgeons locally that I had talked to, dermatologists and so on, the only thing that they felt they could do was provide a flap to cover my lips, to protect my gums and teeth. But they couldn't give me anything that could control it so that I could move my lips, and hold anything. So my plastic surgeon knew a person that had studied under Dr. Palmerhawk, and they contacted each other. Palmerhawk called me, and so we started from there. My burns were about 3.5 to 4 years before I could recover from all of the burns.
They had to heal so that you could have surgeries. How many surgeries have you had, though?
Oh, I don't know. It exceeded 30. Just
exceeded 30?
Yeah, that was way before the transplant. It exceeded 30 while I was in a coma, and then when I got out of the coma, some of my fingers and some of my toes were gangrene, so we had to have those removed, and they had to regraft my head. It was anyway.
A lot. A lot.
Okay.
You got a lot to cover in this film. Are you ready for that?
Yes, I am, and to be honest with you, I've been blessed to be able to talk with Dr. Woden Palmerhawk, Dr. Victor Joe, the people that actually worked with and on him. When he was in a coma with a face transplant, that's been part of my interview process. So I've gotten a lot of medical detail, and my background is engineering, so I'm a bit of a nerd. I mean, I just really nerded out on the information. And I learned part of the reasons that Robert had amputations when he came out of the coma was because when you're laying in such a state of immobility for so long, you don't have blood flow to certain. So they had to have physical therapists work on him while he was in a coma just to keep blood flow going. But they didn't completely succeed. That's why at the end they had to.
Yeah, you've been through so much, my friend.
Yeah, it does appear a lot, and it is. I mean, medical bills and surgeries, and I was coated blue on many occasions. But remember, look at what God, how can you get away from, the natural man sees this as a tragedy and the miracles and whatever you might want to label it. But the journey is great, much greater than man can articulate. Let me tell you about the journey. But that might be for another day and time. But I'm telling you, number one, as much as we can imagine experiences like that, you're all burned up, and the pain that might be associated with it, I had no pain.
No pain?
None. When I had the face transplant,
wow,
I had no pain. My amputations, no pain. Now, who could orchestrate that? So everyone else might say, I couldn't have. Yes, you could. Huh. If you got the joy that I have had because of how he's kept me and comforted me, you'd be rejoicing just as much. See? Daniel had no complaints when he came out the lion's den.
Is that how you feel, that you were in the lion's den and the Lord protected you from the fire?
No, I don't feel like I was in the lion's den. I feel like the hand of God has comforted me for this particular circumstance.
That's good. That's good. I agree with you.
He doesn't need to duplicate what he's already done. The Hebrew boys, some were thrown in the fiery furnace. They didn't need to be thrown in the lion's den too.
I told you he was
everyone
remarkable.
has-
Didn't I tell you that?
Oh yeah.
You are truly remarkable. And I think that God has anointed you and graced you for this journey. You know, I don't think that they say God is in control of all things. This is true. But bad things happen in the earth because, there's evil in the earth. And I believe that evil attacked you, but God kept you. He said that many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord brings them through us all, right? And he has brought you through this journey so that others can see the glory of God on your life and be encouraged. You encourage us just by being present.
Amen.
Your presence here today is so encouraging, and to hear you speak so well of, so many people would be angry with God and I talk to transplant recipients all the time. They're angry with God because they're going through all, sickness and all of these, challenges. But you're not angry. You are resting and you have perfect peace. So how do you stay in that place of gratitude? How do you stay in that place of rest? What do you do?
Well, I think that the key is for anyone. I don't have to just speak for myself, but you got to stay close to your family. Your son Tony, you talk about how much you love him all the time. Well, because he's so close.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same way with our Heavenly Father.
Yeah.
The closer you are, what else can you do but love him, enjoy him, talk about him? So that is the key of how you sustain yourself or how you stay at this degree of, you might call it peace. It's not perfect at this point because the challenges of the flesh are still here. The
The challenges of the flesh are still here.
Yeah, but they're only challenges. I mean, Paul spoke of a thorn that he had dealt with three different times. But God reminded him that his grace was totally sufficient for him to pass on to that. And you think Paul continued to complain? No, he little by little will learn, even in this situation, in that situation, that he covers the gamut. And so eventually there's a point where, yea, though I walk through any valley, I realize that it's just a shadow of death. See?
You better say that. So tell us about the Robert Chelsea Foundation. You're working with Robert to raise awareness about his foundation. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. So where I come in with Robert's Foundation is particularly with this project that I'm doing. Like I say, I see Robert as a close friend, a dear friend, to be completely honest, someone whose story and who continues to impact my life positively with just his perspectives. So what I want to do with this film, and it's not a documentary, this is a feature film with a script with, talents I'm talking to.
Oh, okay.
So what I'm doing with this is to not only showcase what's happened to Robert or inspire people with it. I want to use it as a platform to evangelize, if you will, what Robert stands for. And Robert Chelsea's foundation is essentially Robert Chelsea. Lately, it's there's the RCF, resilience, character, and faith.
Resilience, character, and faith. Those are the things that Robert Chelsea stands for, right?
Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so how are you raising this awareness through the foundation? What are you doing?
Well, there's several things that we're doing, like...
Other than the film, what are you doing?
well, the fact that you give opportunities like this, people are inspired because their heart has been dealt with in some degree, where we have become a part of one another. It's not, it doesn't have to be the same journey, but the empathy that's behind you, for an example, causes me to be able to share what I think is the most important for our disabled diaspora. I can't help when I look at my personal experience that God saw fit to, He let me get all burned up. And now I can understand what a burn survivor goes through, the kind
That's
of
right.
medication, the kind of
That's
therapy,
right.
the kind of needs, the kind of challenges, the losing your friendships and customers. They don't, you can't go to them looking like a, they're not, they want you to be more, what they call presentable. And so I experienced that. I know what an amputee feels like, what kind of requirements are necessary, what kind of medication and so on. And now as a transplant recipient, now I can identify with the demands of a transplant recipient, the obligations. So that's why I look at our foundation as one that is expressing itself for our disabled, overall disabled diaspora.
That's beautiful.
There's just too many individuals in this country and every other that have been burned, that have been amputated, that have been electrocuted, that have been, lye has been poured on them, and so on. So we, how in the world can we advocate for one and not all of the precious people that God has planted our way? So that's the objective of our foundation.
And we are so grateful that you came here today, Robert. Thank you so much for sharing your story, for telling us all about your journey. And how can we find out more information about the Robert Chelsea Foundation? Where do we go?
Well, like the hipsters say, just holler back.
He said, holler back.
Yeah.
Holler back
Yeah.
at robertchelsea.org. That's where you find out more information about Robert Chelsea and the amazing work that he's doing through the RCF Foundation. Thank you, Robert, for being here today.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Temi, for being here today. Thank you so much.